Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I just want to share a cool little dual-bladed build that we have going on here using both the Moonlight and the redshift. Now, both of these weapons are projectile-based melee weapons that pretty much work the exact same way. They get like very similar damage and range. The redshift is just going to be the better one because it just gets more impact and more direct hit adjustment, whereas the Moonlight is going to get slightly better charge attack power. So the redshift is going to be better in almost every single instance. Now, unfortunately, bladed weapons can only be equipped onto your left hand, and being that you cannot buy multiple of the exact same weapon, you can't really use two of the same blade, but being that these are two different weapons that work the exact same way, we technically can do it. Now, the purpose of actually using two of these is because these weapons have very long cooldowns, which is probably going to be their major downside. They get amazing damage, amazing impact, but their cooldowns do take a while. So the purpose of this build is to use one, and while that's cooling down, we switch to the other and use that one. Now, these are two hand-based weapons, but we're actually going to have one on our back unit because we're actually going to utilize the OS tuning weapon bay, which is actually going to be able to use hand weapons onto our back, but that is going to result in having to click a button to switch to the weapon itself. But that is a pretty small price to pay for an ammo-free, very high damaging projectile attack. Now, getting into our main weapon of choice, we're going to have the Hu Ben. Now, this is going to complement our blades very nicely because they have very similar range, and this thing does hit very quickly and does some very nice damage. Now, I'd recommend this one more for PvE. In terms of PvP, another good option that you could go with would be the Aperitif. This is a nice siege missile launcher that just has very aggressive tracking with their projectiles and actually do some very decent impact damage. So you can just like spam that in between spamming your projectiles themselves. Now, as for our back unit, you can go a few different ways. I'm going to go with the stun needle launcher because it's just ridiculous. It's amazing. It's like the best weapon in the entire game. Really good damage, shock damage, amazing direct hit damage as well. It's just really good. Now, you could also go with the songbirds if you felt like you were lacking a little bit of impact. Another option you probably could go with, and something I actually was using a lot with this build, is the Kranich, which is a pulse cannon, which is a cool rapid fire effect. Actually does some very good damage and actually pairs nicely alongside your Hu Ben Gatling gun. You can just hold both of those at the exact same time, and you actually can get some very decent damage. Now, the downside is that it is pretty short range, and the cooldown is ridiculous. Like, it just heats up incredibly quickly, and it takes a long time to cool down. So it's not the most amazing thing in the world. Definitely the Songbird and the SNA would be the much better options, but if you wanted something a bit more fun, then the Kranich could be the play in that regard. As for the armor sets, though, honestly, just go into fashion. I went with the Verils because I have like the best stats for what you need, really, but it is kind of ugly. That's just stupid looking, honestly. As for the core, the Mind Alphas is very balanced because all of these stats are pretty important, especially with this build, so went with these ones. As for the arms, you definitely want to have the Beishios because of that maxed out melee specialization. It's just going to make your damages be even better with these melee-based weapons. Now, as for our legs, we're going to be going with some bipedals. I went with the VE42As. Now, I like bipedals with this type of build because you want to be able to like move around a whole bunch because it is relatively short range. So being able to fly up high is always going to be very beneficial, and being able to quick boost nicely is going to be really cool because with this type of build, with these blades in particular, if you quick boost behind your opponent and then use the blades, you pretty much hit almost every single time because enemies don't really tend to strafe at that point. They either just stay still or like move upwards or go backwards. So you pretty much get a free hit off in that regard. Now, the reason I went with these is because the blades, you don't really move around when using them. You get stuck in like one particular spot. So I want to be able to have something a bit more tanky. Hence, these were the actual pick themselves. Now, it's not really too big of a deal. I just went with them because they look like cool UGG boots, honestly. I don't know. I just like the way they look aesthetically. They're kind of chunky and nice. You can go with anything if you wanted to. You can go with the Howls. They're still perfectly fine as well. It would pretty much do the exact same thing. I just wanted something a little bit more tanky. As for the booster, I went with the Fleugel because it is pretty nice and balanced. You want to have some decent upward thrust and some quick boosting as well. As for the FCS, just went close to medium range. This is going to be pretty much your best option. If you just want to like bomb rush your enemies a lot harder, then you can go with a close range based one. Now, the generator of choice, I'm actually going to go with a coral-based generator, the NGI 000. Now, a lot of people might not like these because it takes a long time to recover, but the way to actually use it is just drain your energy every single time because it doesn't have that maxed out post-recovery energy supply, and being that it has like that maxed out capacity, it actually takes a while for it to actually drain, so it actually is pretty good. Now, it's probably going to be a bit more like situational. It's probably not going to be for everybody, but I've gotten used to it and I actually really like it. It's becoming one of my favorite generators to have. Now, this thing does also have maxed out energy output, which is going to be very beneficial because these blades are actually very expensive in terms of their energy, and we have this stun needle launcher as well. Now, if you actually wanted to use a different type of generator, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to meet the energy load. So if you actually wanted to use something like the Sun Ties, which are actually very amazing in terms of like their capacity and recharge rate. So if you actually didn't like the fact that it takes a long time, then you could use the Sun Ties, but that means you probably have to switch off the stun needle launcher for something else. Probably the Songbirds, they're just going to be like the other obvious option, and you'll still be underneath the energy load, so that's good in that regard as well. And as for the expansion, I just went with Pulse Armor because you really get decent impact as well, so you don't really need to go with Assault Armor. But yeah, Pulse Armor is going to be my pick. Okay, I was going to have a quick little arena match against our S1 ranking dude. Now, you may have noticed is that my red weapon is actually painted red and my blue is actually painted blue. And that is because I just want to know the difference between both of them, because sometimes when you have one equipped, you're just never going to really know as to which one you actually do have equipped. Now, the entire build itself is just basically, as you see right here, is a switching back and forth in between. Every single time you have one cooling down, you have to switch to the other. And you pretty much just work that way as he is firing the Huben the entire time. And once you end up getting the posture break or the stagger, then you just switch back to your stun needle launcher and just get the cleanup that way. And you just keep going back and forth. Now this build is extremely good in both PvE and PvP. Obviously it does really nice impact damage, so it's actually going to pretty much just do nice total overall damage in general against other ACs. And in PvE, being that it doesn't cost any ammo, you don't have to really worry about running out of ammo, nor have to worry about your expenses as well. So in both, it's going to be really, really good. Definitely recommend using the type of build. Rest of the video will just be some more gameplay for both PvE and PvP. As always, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Combat mode. I've looked into the enemy craft. It's an autonomous PCA craft. Balteus. You'll have to pulse armor down. Now's your chance, Raven. I've taken your comms link offline for now. That massive dose of coral nearly killed you.